Fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. If you want it, come and get some. Because we love wisdom. Because we love wisdom.
People in every part of the globe are perishing because the judgment is low. From children to teens to elderly folks, this epidemic is incredibly bold. Wisdom is needed to see through the fog. Without it, we'll stumble and cease to the long. You're jumping without something to break it fall. If you choose to ignore it's a beckoning call. The only people who will lose the war are those who don't know who they're fighting for. You are the only one who can decide your fate. Don't waste your life when you can live inside a grace. If we turn to God and behold the shining face, we will gain traction to run in this human race.
Hey, what's going on? JC Johnson here for the Love of Wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets. And on today's episode, we're going to be discussing the wisdom of Agathism. What's that? More on that after this.
Fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. If you want it, come and get some. Because we love wisdom. Because we love wisdom. Fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. If you want it, come and get some. Because we love wisdom. Because we love wisdom.
Welcome back. You're listening to For the Love of Wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets on North Coast Underground, where the underground starts with you. And I'm your host, JC Johnson. And today we are discussing the wisdom of Agathism. And before the break, we were looking at an article that was written by Robert Puff, PhD, for Psychology Today. And he gave an example by telling a story about a situation where he had, where he actually ended up crashing, well, his wife crashed his car and they ended up having to make repairs on it. But he talked about how he didn't get mad about it. He did feel real frustration. He was angry, but he didn't take that frustration out on his wife. You know, he looked at it and said, even though this is a bad situation, it's going to turn out for good. He took that positive perspective and he began looking at ways that he could actually turn it around. And they were able to sell their car. Well, they were able to purchase the car because they were leasing it. They purchased it and they were able to sell it to somebody else at a value that was even higher than what the car was worth. So they made a profit. So that bad thing ended up being turned around for something good, for something positive in the long run. And that's awesome when things like that can happen. All right, so going on, there's a article on Pinterest, really a post that I think is pretty good because it gives us a bunch of encouraging quotes regarding the topic of Agathism. And this was posted by a guy by the name of LTMB, and it's called I Am an Agathist. It's a collection of positive quotes that would be in line with this Agathism philosophy. The first one he has here, I will get there. He's saying, I may not be there right now, but I know that ultimately I'm going to be there, right? I'm going to be there on the right day and at the right time. Maybe now is not the time for you. Maybe tomorrow will be. Maybe it's not even tomorrow. Maybe it's next year or 40 years from now. But regardless of when it happens, the thing to remember is you will get there, right? You will make it in the time that you're supposed to. Another one he has here, be positive, patient, and persistent. The 3 P's: positive, patient, persistent. You know, when we were discussing Robert Puff and the situation that he went through, he admits that he was angry. But even in the midst of his anger, he decided to be positive. And by positive, remember, I'm not saying he was optimistic, because optimism, even though it's better than pessimism, optimism is still missing something. Because when somebody is optimistic, sometimes they only think that things will get better on their own without putting in any effort. But a person who is an agathist is one who says, I acknowledge that there's something very wrong, something is bad that's going on, but I also believe it's not going to stay there forever, because that's what a pessimist would believe. A pessimist just believes in ultimate doom. They believe that failure is unavoidable, whereas an optimist believes that failure is impossible, whereas an agathist believes that things will ultimately, even though there may be some successes and some failures, ultimately things will work out for good. Things will work out to the best of their ability. So I think that that's pretty good. Definitely in line with what we're talking about here, because Robert chose to be positive. He chose to be patient. He did the research. He found out that he could purchase his vehicle that he was leasing. He found out that he could sell it and make a profit because the vehicle was being sold to him for far less than what it was worth. So he put in the work. He did the research. He took his time. He was persistent because he had to find a buyer. I'm sure it didn't happen in 5 minutes. It took some time, but he found the right buyer who wanted to buy the vehicle, and he ended up making a profit. Another one from the I Am an Agathist post by LTMB. It says, I'm going to make the rest of my life the best of my life. I think that's good. Why is that? Because he's saying that regardless of what has happened yesterday or even today, it doesn't matter. Everything up to this point doesn't matter. What really matters is what I'm going to do going forward. And he's saying, I'm going to be proactive. I'm going to make a choice to make the rest of my life the best of my life. People who tell stories about the past and they say, oh, I remember the good old days, right? I remember back when I was this age, or I remember back when I had this job, or back when I was dating this person, or back when I was making this amount of money. All these things are the past. And if your best days are in the past, then you're not living. You're just existing. You're just coasting. But a wise person knows that even your greatest successes of the past should pale in comparison to the good things that you have in store in the future. I'm going to make the rest of my life the best of my life. That's some great advice. Another one, stay positive, work hard, and make it happen. So again, we're seeing this consistent theme of positivity, right? It's about staying positive, not necessarily just staying optimistic, but staying positive as opposed to negative. Stay positive, work hard, because you do have to put in the work. You're not just sitting back letting nothing happen, but you are being proactive. You are putting in the work. If you can do that, if you can stay positive, if you can work hard, then you can make it happen. Anything that you can imagine, you can make happen. I recently have been reading a story about the founder of Amazon, Jeff Bezos, and how Amazon, how it started out. It was completely different than what you would see today when you go on Amazon. Totally different story. The way that it started out, he didn't have even the vision for it that he ultimately came to have. He wanted it to be the Earth's largest bookstore, and that was as far as it got for him. Later on, he was able to see that, wow, this can be bigger than a bookstore. This can actually become something amazing. It can become not just the world's biggest bookstore, but the world's biggest store, period. We can sell everything. But that didn't happen overnight. It took some time in order for him to get there. But eventually, with positivity, with hard work, with that consistency and persistence, he was able to make it happen. currently Jeff Bezos is he is the wealthiest person in the world. How long will he stay that way? It's hard to tell. You know, he has some legal stuff coming up that may change that. But even still, even if he's no longer the wealthiest person in the world, he definitely will always be one of the wealthiest people in the world. And that came through him being consistent, not giving up on his dream, and having the patience to work with other people, because he didn't make it on his own. He had a great team of people working alongside of him and for him throughout all of those years that Amazon was coming up. But ultimately, it did end up becoming one of the biggest companies in the world. Here's another one from the I Am an Agathist post. I can and I will. Simply put, right? If you say I can do it, it's more likely that you will do it. But if you're saying things like, oh, I can't, or I don't know if I can, then it probably won't. But more on that after this. North Coast Underground, where the underground starts with you. JC Johnson, for the love of wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets. All right, we are back on North Coast Underground, where the underground starts with you. And I'm your host, JC Johnson, for the love of wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets. All right, so before the break, we were taking a look at a few posts that were added on Pinterest by LTMB, and this particular thread is called I Am an Agathist. It's pretty cool. You can check them out, pinterest.com. I Am an Agathist. Here's a couple more. Here's one that says, there is a huge amount of freedom that comes to you when you take nothing personally. Ooh, that's a big one. That's a huge one. You know, that reminds me of a scripture in the Bible that is from Ecclesiastes. And it basically says, don't take to heart everything that you hear someone say about you. Right? Don't take to heart everything that somebody says about you, lest you hear your servant curse you. And what is it saying? It's saying that people are going to talk. They're always going to have something negative to say about you, right? But if you invest thought into that, if you actually meditate on the negative words of other people, it's going to have a negative impact on you. Why do that to yourself? Why set yourself up like that? There's no need to dwell on the words that other people have to say about you, good or bad, right? Because people could be praising you, but don't put too much thought into it. And just know, regardless of what somebody says about you, what really matters is who you truly are, who you know that you are, and who you need to become if you're not who you're supposed to be. A few things here that the Bible has to say about this whole topic of Agathism. One is from Romans 8:28. Taking this from the NIV. This is a really popular verse, but I think that it goes perfectly with what we're talking about today. It says, and we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. That is an awesome one right there, because it really does speak to the truth of this whole thing here. That just like how we mentioned before, if you remember, we talked about Robert Puff and how he talked about, you know, his car being wrecked and how bad of a situation that was. But ultimately, it worked out for his good, because he was able to get the car fixed and he was able to sell it and make a profit. The Israelites, they went through a devastating time period, actually several devastating time periods. They were enslaved in Egypt for 400 years. They went through many hardships. They were almost annihilated by the Persians when they were living in Persia, but they were saved because the king's wife, Esther, she stopped the king from having them all annihilated once he found out that they were actually related to her and that she was a Jew, because he didn't know that. But once he found that out, he put a stop to that. And they ended up being saved and things worked out for them. And then you fast forward even to the 1930s, the 1940s, when you see Jews being taken to concentration camps, being, tortured, murdered in the worst possible ways. But one positive thing that came about as a result is that they were actually able to establish the nation of Israel to fulfill the prophecy that had been spoken over them for thousands of years. It finally came to pass. But the only reason it happened was because Jews from around the world, after the Holocaust, they began to see the importance of going back to the homeland, going back to Israel, where it all started. And they went back there, and that wouldn't have happened if that tragic event of the Holocaust hadn't taken place. So you never know what bad things may have to happen in order for something really great to happen in your life. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 8 through 10, it says, "I begged the Lord 3 times to take this problem away from me. But the Lord said, 'My grace is all you need. Only when you are weak can everything be done completely by my power. So I will gladly boast about my weaknesses. Then Christ's power can stay in me. Yes, I am glad to have weaknesses if they are for Christ. I'm glad to be insulted and have hard times.'" Can you say that? Can you say that you're glad to have hard times? Well, can you say that you're glad to be insulted? He says, "I'm glad when I'm persecuted and have problems, because it is when I am weak that I'm really strong." That's powerful, and that's some great perspective to have. And it's much easier said than done, to be able to look at the world that way. But what he's saying is true. There's no need to see it any other way. And in Romans 8, verse 18, this is in the ERV, it says, "We have sufferings now, but these are nothing compared to the great glory that will be given to us." Everything that God has made, or everything God made, is waiting with excitement for the time when he will show the world who his children are. The whole world wants very much for that to happen. And again, this is a reminder that just because you're having hard times right now, just because you're going through something now, it doesn't mean it's going to be like that forever. And also, it doesn't mean that there's no purpose in it. One of the greatest examples of this in the Bible to me is Joseph. Joseph is a person who experienced extreme hardship, more than what most people would think they should have to go through in life. His brothers were jealous of him, so they set him up. They sold him into slavery. Their father asked what happened to Joseph, and they said, "Oh, he got eaten by wild animals." And they even put some blood on his coat and brought it to his father to make his father think he was really killed, which was devastating for his father. Anytime a parent loses a child is very devastating, and I'm pretty sure that he went through much pain and anguish over that. So after they deceived Joseph, had him sold into slavery, then he was accused of rape while he was in the house where he was a slave. So after that, then he spent about around 8 years in prison. So he was already a slave for several years. Then he went to prison for 8 years, where he was falsely accused, charged for something he didn't even do, something as horrible as rape at that. So imagine how he felt, just as far as his reputation being smeared and all of that. He went through this horrible time. But even with that, after all of that, what ended up happening was all of those circumstances that he went through, it led him to being at this place in the prison where he helped someone by interpreting a dream that they had. This person told the Pharaoh of Egypt about it. It was 2 years later, though, after he helped this person. But 2 years later, this guy remembered Joseph, and he ended up being called from out of the prison. But not only did he just get out of prison, that's not where the story ends. Because many people would say that's a good end of the story, just to get him out of prison. But no, it wasn't even just him getting out of prison, but it was him saying, okay, or the Pharaoh saying to Joseph, since you're able to interpret dreams, how about you interpret my dream? So Joseph interpreted his dream, and it ended up being something that was able to save the entire nation. It was something that was really able to aid many nations around the world, because Egypt was the only one that had grain, and that they were able to feed the whole world. And this was something that Joseph knew, because God had given him this understanding. Had he not been sent to prison, he never would have had this opportunity to give this information to Pharaoh. And if he never gave that information to Pharaoh, then he never would have become second in command and be an extreme, have this extreme prominent place in Egypt, to where he was a ruler over everyone, including his brothers who had sold him into slavery. Awesome turn of events for him. It's funny how in life sometimes things can change like that, right? Things can work out for your favor, even though people may mean harm against you. But that's all we have time for right now on the second hour. Next time we're going to be discussing another topic. We're going to be speaking about anthropomorphism. All right, but you're listening to For the Love of Wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets. I'm your host, JC Johnson. See you next time.
Fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. If you want it, come and get some. Because we love wisdom. Because we love wisdom. Fear of God is the beginning of wisdom.